Hey, are you eating that? Oh, Jesus Christ. Let me go get him. It's like a child. Stop. Hey, you can't ingest the plastic. Here, look at this one. Look at this, shiny. Go get it. He's like, oh, I want the blue ball. Oh, he's like a child. It's like having another kid. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Burndown YouTube channel. Eddie and I, we got a late start. We went down and we got a motor. I've got a short block 6-liter that we're going to throw in the mix and raffle that thing off locally to help raise some funds for Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0. I think we're going to have to go the way of sponsoring the event. I'll make a whole separate talking head video for those of you guys that are interested, that want to know how much it's going to cost me and what we're trying to do to get there. I will break that down for you. But an interesting fun fact is Eddie met his first human that had been off of drugs for like 3 days. Dude was from South Central. He liked Eddie, and Eddie was very friendly with him. And Eddie's actually from Compton, so maybe they were like kindred spirits. But yeah, I was walking Eddie down there waiting for my guys to show up, and they were late. So I met an interesting gentleman down in Long Beach this morning. So at least he was friendly, so I'll give him that. So anyways, and he was doing good. He's 3 days sober, so I hope he continues to do well. So we're out here on the Malibu today, and I will pull the deck lid off. And I think what we're going to do is I mounted the fuel filter, and I did that with no cameras on and made a couple fuel lines, but I have one more said fuel line to make. And I know I made a video on making Hardline, and if you've noticed, I hardline everything. It's like my go-to jam. So I want to make a line, and I'll be specific on it, and I want to share with you guys and show you how I make hard lines and measure it and do the deal with that. Also, underneath we got the water pump to mount. But let's get through the one line, and we're not going to get froggy today because it's, like I said, it's already a bit later and it is Saturday. So we're out here playing. Let's see how far we can get. Let me pull the trunk lid off and we'll look at what we got. This is what I came up with. So this is a spin-on fuel filter. If you haven't been following along, I had a lot of fueling issues, and it ended up being the sending unit in here, the float, was getting eaten by the E85 and plugging my filters. So I kept changing filters and getting crazy. So we got all the way to this big old mamma jamma. But the cool thing about this is this will flow all the fuel, so it's really not very restrictive, as where like those inline filters are restrictive. And then if you plug it up at all, I mean, mine were getting so plugged I was burning pumps out. So I mounted it like this because I was looking all over. Mount it here, mount it there. The lines only sweep on a bend so much because it's a -8, you know, so I can't get too close to this. And this is where my battery box sits, and the whole nine. And I was staring at this, and there's an indentation, right? And then this has these two little mamma jammas, and I was holding it here, and I'm like, well, shoot, if I just bolted it down, this indent, see that indent? There's this one here. It locks it in kind of side to side. So I'm like, yeah, that's a twofer. And then the sheet steel, there's like 3 layers that come together right here. So we just put said bolt through because I already had a mount for it. But this used to be down here on the frame, which obviously we moved the fuel tank down, so I couldn't do that. And that also screws my fuel feed, because the fuel used to be in a different spot. This used to be on the frame rail, right? These came down to a Y, that went down to there, and that jumped over. So underneath, I've got somewhere under here, that guy, this guy is my jumper feed line. That's my return. So this is my feed up and over the axle. So we need to get from this guy, oh look, let's get painting that. Maybe we should rattle can that. We need to get from this guy to what I just showed you in the trunk area. So that's what we're going to work on today, and then I should be able to kind of do it all in one shot. That's the plan anyway. We're gonna play with that, then I'll show you guys how we go about doing it. Let's get started. Before we get started, I want to share some stuff with you on the hardline portion, because I always skip straight to doing it and people ask me questions. So hopefully we get you covered here. So first and foremost, this is 3003 Versa tube that I get from Spruce Aircraft. They are local to me. They might have a store near you. If not, you can order it on the internet. But essentially, it's the same stuff like Jegs and everybody else sells. It's just cheaper there. Another fun key fact I want to share with you guys is I had this was on my car before, right? And I don't know if you can see down in there. See, that's a better angle. So if I can hold both of these the same, I want you to see if you can see that. So see the size on the hole? This versus that? This guy's a lot smaller, and this is the dash 8, right? So I was squeezing my fuel through this and then into a Hardline. So it may not look like that big of a difference, but in the diameter, you know, a little bit goes a long way. So we're going to eliminate this guy, but I just wanted to share with you guys that run the hose like this. Yeah, it works, it's fine. I didn't have any fuel. I mean, I had tons of fuel issues, but not because of this. But if you're gonna go through the trouble, right, you might as well get the fuel flow. Stay. So another fun fact that I like about this is I couldn't find any collars or couplers, but I found this little guy, and look, it has 2 collars and couplers. So all I have to do is cut these off of here, and I can use these. Along with everything you see on here, this is all used stuff that was on different lines, and I just cut it and made new line. So that is really cool. Once you kind of get these, unless you screw them up, they're basically good. So I'll have little ends, and I keep these, and I keep pieces of line that I actually have tucked up in there for that purpose. So once you kind of invest in it, it's kind of an evergreen deal, you know, as long as you don't need that line. Like, you change something out, you just got to get some cheap tubing, and then you can just cut the ends off. Sometimes I'm lazy and I like to buy new stuff and just make all brand new, but I always have stuff laying around. So like today, this saved me. Yeah, these are blue, it is what it is, but that's better than not getting anything done, right? Also, if you do want to buy new, shameless plug for my boys over at War, they carry a full line of all kinds of different fun stuff. So hit them up, support these guys, and they'll get you covered. See, look at this is an 8-to-8 union, so this would put a female and a female together. Whoop, like if you just had to cut into a line or do whatever. Problem solver. Go check out War Performance if you need these, if you don't have a good source for AN fittings. These are the tools that you would have to invest in. It's a 37-degree flare. This is it's Imperial flaring, so buy a good one of these. Don't cheap out, because you're going to use it a lot. See, made in the Americas. And then this is the block. So basically, we'll show you guys when the video gets down, but this goes around there and then screws in, right? And that's where you get your flare, and it's a single 37-degree flare. It says it right here as well. You need this to cut tubing. Pittsburgh, good old Harbor Freight. This one's seen better days, but it is what it is. And I have 2 of them. That's what this used to be for, but I like this little angle dangle guy to get in there and clean it out. And then I've got a file to make sure it is clean, and I can go over and show you guys all the reason why we do that. And then lastly, I've learned this trick too, is you smear a little grease on this guy and you make sure this thing's nice and smooth. This will give you a nice shiny flare. So when you flare these guys out, the inside of this should be nice and shiny, because that's basically the seal. So that is that. I hope you guys learned a bit, and I wanted to break it down before we even got started, because we're just going to get under there and kind of try to whip a line out. But this is the basics of what you would need. And yes, there is some investment up front, but by the time you buy these ends and you buy some hose, and then it gets restricted anyway, you might as well go like a dash 10, I guess, if you wanted a dash 8 feed. This stuff, it starts adding up. The Parker fittings and all this stuff, and then you still got to make these. Are a pain in the ass. You don't really need special tools. But once you have this invested, and you could probably find cheaper stuff than Imperial. This is Harbor Freight. That was Harbor Freight. This is a file. You know, this line is cheap AF. And then here's the other cool thing too, is this thing will do all the different sizes all the way up to a dash 10, right? 5/8. So once you got this, you're locked and loaded if you want to change sizes. This will do a dash 6. This will do brake fittings or brake line fittings. See, flip it over, we got the little guys here. So you're not going to just do a one-trick pony with this. So I would buy the good stuff there. You can cheap out on these guys, and then like I said, you can get these and collect them as you go. And then this tubing comes in all different sizes. I use everything from dash 3, 4, 6. Every once in a while I get to 5, but that's a donkey size, so you want to be at like 6, and then 8 and 10, and then I don't know how much. I think they might go to 12, but anyway. And then these guys here, this is a special 1/2 inch bender, because we're working with dash 8, which is 1/2 inch. but they sell a little trifecta, dude. I might as well show you guys in my junk over here. Don't mind the junk. This is my junk drawer. Bada boom, bada bing. So you can get a cheapy guy of these two. I don't know where I got this, I don't remember. But this will do three different sizes of tubing. So that is a rundown on said parts you need to get into the hardline game. Then you'll be like me. You'll hardline it. Life will be good. You can make changes cheaply. Like I said, that braided line stuff per foot is way more expensive than aluminum. I guess once you factor in the ends and all that other stuff, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. It's what I prefer. Let's get on there and measure and make a line. All right, we got a standard ruler. Yeah, standard tape measure. And then we'll just do the old bendaroo. And then we're gonna eyeball it. And I'm gonna just add to whatever this is. We're not gonna get too crazy, but you know, we're gonna wing it. Let's say that's about 14 like this area here, and then we'll just take one back right from the edge. I'm gonna do one of those guys. Let's say that's 28, 14, 28, and 8. So the tubing comes in a roll, and then to get it kind of straight, I just put it on a flat surface and then just pull it out like that. See, not too difficult. We'll get this to it was 50 inches roughly I was looking at, so we're gonna add, let's add 55, let's go 56 inches. So we'll add 6 inches, and you want to be over instead of under, because if you're under, then this is all the waste, and then we got to try it again. So we'll go 56. So we'll mark it. Let me find that. And I don't have my pen. So we'll go 56, I think I said. And then instead of marking it like we should, I got what it here. We'll just put this guy where we should cut it, because we're long anyway, right? So I just set that where we should cut it. So I'll use my little tubing cutter. We'll get this cut, and then I'll kind of show you how we work this and straighten it out. But it's pretty straight when you just set it on a flat surface and roll it back out. It's not that hard, and it shouldn't be rocket science, but you never know. Okay, I started the cut with this guy. Here's the trick with these things. On this cut, because this is long and I'm going to probably cut both ends nicely, you could kind of, you know, give it a twist and then a twist, and then continue to do that. Oh, I'm trying to do this one-handed, right? But if you're putting too much pressure on it when you're rolling it around, I'm going to show you what happens, is it actually rolls the edge in, right? And then you got to clean all that stuff out. So, oh, we did it. So see that? See how it rolled that edge in? That's because I gave it too much pressure. If you just do little tiny turns and wheel it a bunch, it doesn't fold the edge over so bad, and you have less cleanup. But there's a tip for that. And you don't want to like gunk in there, because what'll happen is you'll fold it over and then you won't get a good seal. So I'm just pushing on this thing. I'll show you like a, you know, you can see how the thing, you can see it. See how it like flops, it and flops around, right? So you just get on like a high crown spot, just push it down. Oh. Or you can even go the other way where it's proud. Push it down, just kind of manhandle it, but you're trying to get it to straighten out. You're not trying to, you know, put big curves in it. So then you roll it, see where it's a high spot again. So this is high, so let's push it down, pull up on the length, same here. And we're just trying to get it straight-esque. You know, we're not, they sell tools to do this, but I don't have that tool yet. It's a luxury, and I assume that you probably won't either. And then here's our high spot here. Push down, kind of pull up, give it the old roll. You'll chase this for a little bit. It'll take a couple minutes, but ultimately you'll end up with something like that. It's fairly straight, right? So you can see if you roll it, it's not 100%, but it's damn near good enough for what we're doing, right? So now that we've got that, let me show you. I like to do this. I like to put these collars and nuts on the fitting end, right? Because the cool thing I will share with you, let me find a piece here, is with it cut off like that, it's not flared. You can fit them in and out. So instead of guessing, like holding it, oh, it might go there, you can literally put this thing where it goes, and all it needs is a flare. It would live just like that, right? Obviously a teeny bit shorter, but not too bad. So now we can make our first turn and put it down and get it going, but I can lock it in here, maybe even put like a piece of tape or something to hold it if I really needed to, but we can make measurements and it always goes back in the same spot. So that's another tip too. I like to thread these on here, because other than that, you're left with this, right? Like that. And then what, are you just gonna hold it and go, oh, you know, this would go right here. And then what, am I supposed to hold this like that and then make bends and things? Nope. So might as well just throw both of them down there since we dropped one. But you get the point. I'm gonna pick those up and we'll get started bending this. I gotta go chase those down now. But we will kind of get a couple little bends going, and then I'll show you guys how we complete the deal. So I'm going to just do a 90, bring it under the car, and then I'll bring you along for the struggle underneath. I've decided to take it one step further. What we're going to do is we're going to flare this end, because I'm only going to run a 90 on it, right? So we're going to clean this up by doing a little bit of tightening and then turning it a bunch until it loosens up. Spin it, you'll feel it kind of loosen up. And then give it a little, like a little boop, that's it. And we'll spin it around, loosens up, and a little boop. And you do that until the end falls off. So again, if you get too froggy with it, you're gonna fold that end over and then you have a hard time cleaning it out. And you have a better chance of having a leak. Granted, if you follow this, you get it right, you're gonna get it right 100% of the time every time. I'm just saying, now that I probably jinxed myself, but you get the point, right? Go gadget, cutting, it's like a little pizza wheel. There you go, bam. So, there we go, still folded it over a bit, but we'll clean that up right now. First tool I like to run is this little wing guy. It works exactly how you think it would. You just stuff it in there, work it back and forth, and this should cut that piece off where we folded the thing over. Granted, mine's dull as get out, it's super old, and it's kind of what it does. I'll show you, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it starts to push that piece that folded in out, right? So now you have a piece that's on the outside versus on the inside. Remember, we want to flare this out, right? So when it starts creating that, that's what the file's for. So I just put it on an edge, you know, somewhere like this. Let's see if you guys see it. Just to hold it, and you got to keep it square, right? Because this thing needs to be a nice 90 to get a good flare on it. One side of this file is more aggressive, the other side is basically plug junk. Yeah, I try to keep it nice and square, and then we got rid of that lip. I don't know if you guys see that. It's a little bit more there. It's probably not really focusing, but it's basically folded over just a little bit. So you might look at this and go, oh, that's good, let's flare it. But again, the problem is if you have a inner lip on that thing, when you go to flare it, it smashes that into the outside edge, and depending on how far down it goes, that could get into the circle area, like the seat area, because there's only so much meat, you know, on the little fitting. And if that gets in there, you're either gonna have to tighten it way down and hopefully just smash the hell out of it enough and it seals, or you're gonna have to redo the fitting. We don't want to redo stuff, so I don't like that. So I'm gonna work on this. I'll show you when it's nice and clean, and then we will flare it. I found a good example. So here's the clean edge, and you can see how it pushes it over and in. I know the camera's kind of blurry, but you can see that inside edge there. right here, that's from cutting it. So that's what we're trying to eliminate. You want it to look like this edge, not the one that's deep in there. So I clean this up, and by doing the same method, this guy, file until you get it nice. So now, pick a little dude, you find your size. It says right on the side here. It's really easy to kind of see. And you want to make sure the bevel's up, right? I've done that before. You lock it in, you think you're ready to go, and there's no bevel. Well, it's not going to flare. So, slide it in there, snug it on down. Let's see. See, like I said, you gotta pick the right size, Dane. Trying to stuff a 1/2 inch line in 3/8 doesn't work. So it'll fit in there nicely, right? And the trick with this is you want it level at the top. Depending on the line size, one of the easy things, if you got a flat surface, you just stick it on the flat surface, right? Push down, and then give it the old tighten-a-roo, and then you should be nice and level. So that's a little pro tip. So you're not, because you can't eyeball and just tighten it down and do that 9 times out of 10. But if you're by a table or a flat surface, bada boom, bada bing, and then just come back and double check, right? So now we're locked in with our little guy there. Take this guy. You want to make sure that this surface is clean and free from any junk that this thing, if this thing's messed up, you're not going to get a good flare. So it needs to be nice and smooth. And take our friend the grease, right? Just a little dab will do. You don't got to get all crazy with it. Just run a little bit on there. Like I just put a little dab. I don't know if you guys see it. And then I like to spin this thing. And it's only going to be on a certain part of the cone. So if you grease, you know, just lightly and spin the whole cone and kind of grease up and down the thing, each time you make a flare, it's going to ride in a particular place, and then you can just spin it and run your finger up and down, because you just need that film on there so everything slides nice. Put said dude around, you give it a little twist and it locks it down, and then you snug this and it will basically self-center, right? So I'll give you a look at that. This is just snug. You lock the little army guys, and then now that it's on there, here's the thing, Hulkamania, you just tighten this thing down, and you got the grease in there working good. You got it, you know, nice and flush. You cleaned your end out. This is it. This is for all the meat and potatoes. Stop making noise. I'm trying to talk. You tighten it till it stops. That's it. Like that, right? I'm not a big buff guy. You just do one of those. I used to get all froggy and be like, I got to make sure, and I would tighten it. So what you do when you tighten it like that is you will crack the flare. So now that we did that, we back it off, and I'm going to show you what to look for, and you're going to be a pro right now, and you're going to make a flare, and you're going to know if it's good or not without ever testing it. Undo it. You got to go wider, because now you got a flare. Remember that. It's not going to want to come off. Up over the flare, and here you go. So I'm going to inspect this. I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. This inside edge needs to be shiny and smooth, so we have that. And here's the other thing that will bite you, is you want to flip it around, and you want to look at the back side of the flare and spin it around and make sure you didn't get all froggy on that thing and crack it, because if you put too much pressure, it'll split, and then that is a leak as well. So I'm going to say on camera that this is, that's good fitting, that's a good flare. So I don't know if you guys see that, nice and shiny. Bada boom, bada bing. The other thing too that you guys are probably sitting there going, Dane, you idiot. Yes, you always put your collar and everything on first before you flare. I didn't want to have that mumbo jumbo, and I knew it would just slide off the end because it's a flat, straight piece. So again, we will do that on the next one. And if I do the same thing and get carried away talking, we're going to do what everybody does every now and then and make a beautiful flare like that that would seal without a nut and collar, and then it's junk and you're cutting it off. So we'll grab the nut and collar, slide it on here before I make the bend. No harm, no foul. Here's a look at our flare. You always put the collar on first and then the nut, and the nut pulls the collar against your flare, and the actual tubing itself is the seal. These just pull against it to get it to seal up. So if you have a straight piece, obviously you can put it on after the fact. you pretty much want to get in the habit of putting these on first before you ever start doing this, because if you have any sort of bend, the nut will fit around the bend, but the collar will not. Any kind of sort of radius, these don't want to slide around it. So if it's a straight piece and you only have one side like I have here, you're good, but other than that, you're going to get screwed. So we'll move on to the bender. The bender's marked, right? So this portion locks in the end, and then you pull it around with this guy here. So we are just bending a 90. So I will show you, right? Like that. You lock it in, and then you pull it to the designated mark. So in our case, 90 will go straight down, and that basically locks this in there. This thing will flop around, but that will be basically locked in because of that bend. So that is it. We'll give this thing a pull. It says 90, which is basically straight down. We got this. We can go throw it on the car and then get to making more bends. Okay, before we get really moving, I'll probably time lapse the rest of this. I want to share another thing with you. We did the 90. It was touching here. It cleared fine, but I don't want it rubbing on anything, so we overbent it a little bit. So I may come back just a bit, but I want to stand off of this and rather have it a little bit further away than a little bit closer in case it starts moving. We don't want to rub a hole in nothing. So we got that there. It's okay for now. And then I want to share this with you. If you get a piece of scrap, I made this black mark here, right? So this black mark, I need to put an arrow on it. This is the 0 point here on my bender, because this radius, so you can see, the radius gives it some offset. So from here to there, I mean, we can measure it, but it's at least, it's over an inch. It's probably 1.5 inches or so. I'm sure there's a mathematical equation for why it bends like that. But I like to have one of these, so I'll show you right now. Instead of guessing, I know that this thing needs to bend and kind of basically be tight under here, right? Like I said, I don't really want it touching, but I don't want it hanging down. I want it nice. Well, if I have this, I could just eyeball from my mark on where the bend, you know, kind of needs to be, right? So obviously it's kind of a donkey piece up there, and we'll have to move it around or whatever, but I could put this and kind of see where the bend needs to start, so that way we can keep this bend tight. Because if you start it too late, the bend will be down here, and you start too early, it'll get into the bottom of this. So that's another tip. I think we're pretty well good, so I'll put you guys on a time lapse. I just need to take this from here under here, and then we'll have it up, and then we'll just kick it over. So it shouldn't be too crazy. Maybe we can get to the very last portion. I got one more tip for you guys, but we'll leave it long, and then I'll show you where you cut it. That way you know that you got a good cut, so when you flare it, stuff will mate together. So all right, time lapse time. Here's the finished product for the most part. So we come out of there, bend underneath. I can bend these a little bit different. I don't want any of this stuff touching. And then it cruises up, turns, and then plugs in. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pick a spot and use one of those little guys to hold it off. Let's do like a nutsert or something. And then that way I can have my gap like that, and it'll be supported here. So when we're wiggling and going down the road and moving, nothing is rubbing. So we'll pick a spot, support it. That'll keep that like that. That'll keep that here. And this guy back here should be good. So, yes, Eddie. That is it. I hope you learned a little bit of flaring. It takes a lot longer to shoot a video like this, but I figured I'd inform you guys, and then we'll start jumping through on some more of the other stuff. I think the, man, I got junk in my eye when I was looking up and wiggling the line, so my left eye's killing me, but I have the water pump to mount. So I think before we spin the car, Eddie, before we spin the car around, we'll mount the water pump. Eddie's gonna bother me right now because close to his dinner time. But we're gonna spin the car around, we'll mount the water pump, and then there was something else underneath there that we'll keep you guys posted on what we do. But I gotta go. He's yelling at me. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe. Until next time. We're out.